Hi everyone, I'm Allison Wesley, and we are about to practice something where you will only need a floor and a blanket, and you could even use a towel. So the purpose of these next few exercises are basically to get really pliable into the back body. So the back of the hips, the glutes, the mid-back, upper back, and neck. So once you have a blanket, fold it so it's about, this wide, and then roll it up so it's very long and as wrinkle-free as possible. So I have this kind of tight roll that I'm going to lay onto. So I'll place it right to the side of me, and I'm going to lay onto the blanket so that it meets me right at the back of my glutes. So you can either just position yourself, lay down, come onto the blanket, or you can always come down to your back and replace it. Now from here, this already should feel pretty good. You might choose just to stay and kind of rest in the shape and allow for that really gentle kind of fascial release to the space at the back of the pelvis. If you wanted to add movement, you'd walk your feet wide with your knees bent, and then slowly tip both knees from one side to the other. It's kind of like windshield wiper. And we'll do this a few times. And of course, if you find a spot that you want to stay with, feel free to stay. But you'll feel a little bit of the deepening of the contact where the blanket meets the back side of your glutes there. And you can get creative. If you'd like to flow with your breath, you can exhale to turn and inhale to come back to center. Let's do one more to each side. And once you've done this video, if there's any piece of it that you want to go back to and to continue, please do so. But we'll start to work toward the next exercise. So this is where we get into kind of this fun little crawl that I think is really helpful for the muscles that help to bring your shoulders down your back, and also the muscles that strengthen your back in general. So you're just going to float your arms up toward the ceiling, just really nice and relaxed. And we're going to pick up one half of the body. So I'm picking up my left pelvis, my left shoulder blade, scooting it forward, lowering it down, and then second side. And we're going to keep this going until eventually the blanket is underneath the mid-back. And you can be really intentional with this. So rather than, using momentum and rocking your way forward, you can really lift, scoot forward, lower down, lift, scoot forward, lower down. Da, da, da. I'm almost there. And for this next position, you want to be relatively underneath mid-back, maybe near the tip of the shoulder blades. So it might feel like you're in a little bit of a back bend. So step one, you're going to take your feet together and your knees apart. And of course, you could place something underneath your knees if you'd like. And we're going to take the arms slowly up and back. Now I'm going to give you a few options. So the first piece is just learning to feel the kind of pelvic floor, the abdominal muscle, inner thigh connection. So you're just going to breathe in, and as you breathe out, you'll let your tailbone tip back. So it's really subtle pelvic tilt, and let your heels firm together. And then as you breathe in, you would undo that. So as you breathe out, the tailbone would tip underneath you. So you're breathing out, hollowing out, and firming the heels. And then you'd breathe in to release. Now this is already pretty good. If you wanted to add on, you can add an abdominal curl up. So the image I like for this, I'm going to do that same pelvic thing I did before. It's like I'm holding a big beach ball, and I'm going to take the beach ball forward like I'm handing it off to someone. And right now I'm on a hardwood floor, so the blanket is actually kind of scooting back, which is pretty nice. It makes me feel like I'm being lifted up. Okay? And then as I breathe in, I'm going to slowly release back down, and I'll take that beach ball overhead. Okay, so with an exhalation, you would lengthen your tailbone underneath you, firm your heels, and carry the beach ball up and forward. And as you inhale, you'd come all the way back down. So you can get really creative with this and imagine that you're handing the beach ball off to someone very tall. Or you might imagine that you're handing the beach ball off to someone that's crouching, right? So a little bit lower. And it's just going to start to train different sections of the muscles that are lifting you up in your abdominals. Let's do one more. So exhaling, the pelvic piece, you're handing that beach ball forward. And the inhale, really slow to release back down. Right, rest, so let go of any kind of hold to the legs. And then use the hands to help you bring your knees back in. And we're going to come into one last movement here with the blanket, pretty much where it is. I like to do a little bit of a scooting forward, so it's very much underneath my shoulder blades. And then I would take my arms out to a T. And you can do this with palms up or palms down. But I'm going to straighten out with my left leg, and I'm going to bring my right leg across, so it's making contact with the opposite leg. Right? Now, what I'm going to try not to do is to push off with my hand or to use any kind of momentum or swinging of my legs, but rather I'm going to breathe in, and as I breathe out, I'm just going to think to myself, pelvis turning left. And it's not a huge movement. The blanket will be there so I can feel my shoulders are still in contact. And then I'm going to breathe in and come back to center. So it's this slow turn of the pelvis, which will turn the legs. Let's do that once more on this side. And you're also welcome to turn your gaze away from the knee if you'd like as you turn. You'd inhale to come back to center. And then we'll switch and reach the right leg out. Bend the left knee. So without moving your legs, right? We're not trying to lead with legs. We're not trying to lead by pushing the hand, but with the breath as you exhale. It's as if the pelvis is turning to the right. Your shoulder will stay in contact with the blanket. And as you inhale, slowly come back. Twice more. And again, if you'd like, you can turn the gaze away from the knee as you turn. And inhale, center. Okay, and you can release. Each leg, we're going to do one more little crawl forward, so arms float up. You can pick up 1/2, scoot it forward, lower it down. 1/2, scoot it forward, lower down. Until eventually, we're going to land with the blanket right at the tops of the shoulders. And I'm going to give you a few options. So already I'm feeling actually a little bit of kind of nice release and pliability to the upper shoulders. I could stay here. I would be able to increase it by floating my arms back. Right, so I'm just letting the weight of the arms come back. And this is very different than me lifting my ribs to take my arms back. So I'm trying just to really feel weight of arms resting back. Yeah. Now, third option, if you're still not getting much of that release to the upper trapezius, upper shoulder muscles, you can lift and lower like you would for bridge. So you would lift your pelvis, and this is just going to bring you more in contact with the blanket. And then you would lower back down. And I'm even going to scoot a little bit forward for that one. Yeah, so it's not so much under my neck, it's really under the top of the shoulder blades. And I've seen people do all sorts of things with this, elbows out. I've seen people keep their arms up or do kind of a floating cross of the elbows. Let's just take one more round, whichever variation is working for you. And then the last piece of this kind of blanket rollout, we're now going to take the blanket underneath the back ledge of the skull. So you can either scoot like we did before. I find at this point it's actually helpful just to lift and take the blanket underneath. And this is not going to look like much. In fact, let it be pretty gentle. But you're just going to rest the back of the body, which at this point should feel pretty smoothed out. Don't lift the head, but just slide. So I'm imagining this kind of slow drag of my head as I turn. I'm rotating just to the first kind of easy stopping point. And then slow drag and slow turn to the opposite side, really gently firming my head against the blanket. Let's do that just once more to each side. Of course, if you want to continue any of these exercises, spend a little more time with them, please do. But then you can turn back to center eventually. Now, the purpose of this whole sequence was to really kind of iron out, melt, and relax the back body. So it's important to give yourself a chance to feel that you've done that. So you can just roll to your side, and you'd press the floor away and come to any vertical position. So you might be, seated, kneeling, standing, whatever feels good to you. And give yourself a moment there just to feel that kind of wash. Thank you guys so much for trying this out. I hope you're feeling a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more kind of soft through the back body. And I hope to see you again soon.